Hey, what's up, my dear followers, and welcome back to another season of this great fanfic. Welcome back to the fourth season of What If Naruto Was Trained by Madara and Fell in Love with Sasuke. As always, you know that if you want more seasons, just let me know with a like, comment, and subscribe for more. So, we gonna start.
Chapter 37, Curse Mark. All I ever do is win, said Naruto, appearing right behind them all. They all widened their eyes, suddenly feeling the fear that had just been induced to a ridiculous degree. Naruto's words rang right inside of their heads. Win. All he ever does is win. Naruto has proved time after time that he is exceptional. No, he has proved that he was undisputed in everything that he does. His accelerated learning that many envy and wish to have was something truly terrifying about Naruto. He has experienced exceptional growth at such an early age. Some may say that he is gifted only due to his genetics. Maybe, maybe not. They most certainly don't know him. All they can ever do is simply assume of his nature. Naruto jumped up, maneuvering his leg right towards Dosu's face. He widened his eyes, jumping away to avoid such a devastating blow to his face. Dosu gritted his teeth at his own fearful actions. Resonating echo drill, Naruto stopped abruptly in his tracks, feeling the piercing sound waves overwhelming his ears. His apathetic face turned into slight disdain. Dosu was generating sound with his resonating echo speaker. How does it feel now? You're too arrogant. This is payback, yelled Dosu, feeling the confidence once again brim to the surface of his own conscience. Naruto clicked his own tongue. Arrogance? I like calling it confidence. Naruto shot right towards Dosu, persevering his way through the piercing sound waves of his jutsu. Just before Naruto could make contact, a shockwave could be heard from beside them. Decapitating airwave, Dosu widened his open eye to a considerable degree. What was wrong with this lunatic? He glared at Zaku for a quick moment or two. What the hell was that? You could have injured me, Dosu yelled, glancing at the cracked and disarrayed groan right in front of them. Zaku just scowled with displeasure. It's fine. It's a small price to pay if you got hurt. As long as we take this blonde and black down, then it's fine if you get hurt. Dosu continued to glare at Zaku with such hatred. Then, how about this? You be the pawn. Then I'll take you out right along with him, yelled Dosu, obviously brimming with hatred for Zaku's own decisions. Before he could retort back, Naruto made his presence known once again. Your teamwork is full of holes and is highly inadequate, said Naruto, voicing himself once again before appearing right in front of Dosu and punching him in the face. He staggered back, losing his precious balance and falling down on the ground. Zaku and Kin moved back. Naruto moved right towards Dosu, readying himself to give the boy the rightful finishing blow that he needed. But it seems the road of life has other plans than that. Naruto jumped up into the air, making him avoid evading such a devastating array of kunai. You're dead now, yelled Zaku, preparing himself to unleash his jutsu. Naruto's hair and clothes swayed all throughout the air as he prepared to do a jutsu himself. Tiger, ox, dog, rabbit, snake. Naruto inhaled heavily. Wind release, great breakthrough. Naruto then exhaled to let out a tremendous amount of wind from his mouth. Just before Zaku could unleash his jutsu, he felt a sharp pain rouse up from his leg. He was now distracted, as he was now looking right at his kunai-impaled leg. Truly a terrifying sight to withhold. Zaku looked at the direction of the perpetrator and saw that it was Sakura that had delivered the blow to him. He glared at her while grinding his teeth together. Even more pain roused all throughout his body once the jutsu had connected with both him and Kin. Naruto landed on the ground without much, even a single scathe able to be detected on his own body. He slowly stood up and made his way towards the two. If Zaku had unleashed his jutsu, it would have been more of a pain dealing with them. Thanks, Sakura, Naruto thought, dodging a punch from the quick Dosu. He slightly gritted his teeth at the sound of his jutsu. His resonating echo drill is quite the annoying jutsu. He can't let himself risk the consequences of getting hit. I'll try avoiding hitting his gauntlet, Naruto thought. God, this was much more of a pain than he had expected. Am I getting weaker? Or are people just catching up to my level as a genin? Naruto thought, knowing that the latter was definitely the only reasonable explanation that he could have. He jumped right over Dosu and prepared to kick his head. Dosu reacted to this and placed his gauntlet right over his head. But it seems he anticipated the wrong move. "You're easy to read," said Naruto in a monotonous way. He kicked up the foot that he was going to at first. Naruto then used his other leg and kicked Dosu in his face. He reacted with a painful yelp. Dosu was knocked away meters away from Naruto. Blood rushed from his nose, mouth, and any external wounds he had been delivered. Naruto landed on the ground once more. "Seems he is done for now," Naruto thought, looking towards the direction of Zaku and Kin. He then saw that kunais were being thrown right towards him. Naruto thought, ducking right below to dodge the pairs of kunai that ever shot towards him by Zaku and Kin. He jumped away, seeing as the two were rushing right towards him. He saw them close the distance between them. "Careful," Naruto said, pulling out a kunai from his holster. "You just might cut yourself." In one slick and fast motion, Naruto gave harm to them. A sharp and sudden pain had appeared around their abdomen area of their body. They looked down, seeing the blood seep out of their own body. The little moment of distraction was more than enough for Naruto to take advantage of. He slightly jumped up into the air and delivered a kick to their faces. They staggered back, falling down on the ground without much more effort. Just because it's a 3v1, me being at the disadvantage, doesn't mean I'll lose and that you will win. They regained their balance and jumped away. You overestimate your own abilities. Know that there is a difference between skill and luck. The two gritted their teeth at Naruto's severing words. "If we're going to go down, I'll take Pinky alongside with us," yelled Zaku, bursting right towards Sakura in a blink of an eye. Though it seems Naruto had no intention on reacting whatsoever. Zaku outstretched his hand, reaching out towards Sakura's neck. Just before he could make contact and choke her today, he stopped, trembling in utter fear. His eyes were wide. He looked to the side, feeling such a menacing and ominous aura right beside him. Zaka's eyes were full of despair at the sight right in front of him. Satsuki was looking at him, an intense and wicked grin appearing right on her face. Flame-like marks were spreading all around her face and body. The marks stopped spreading and solidified itself. They were now pitch black. The very injured Dosu noticed this, painfully widened his lone and open eye. "Orochimaru-sama, we were just pawns all this time." Dosu gritted his teeth. Satsuki tightened her grip on Zaku. He yelped in pain from the intensity of the grip. "Your time is up," said Satsuki with such an icy and cold tone going right along with it. Zaku shivered in fear, swallowing the large lump that was on his throat. In an instant, Zaku was punched in the face and thrown right on the trunk of the tree. Blood dripped from his body as he felt the bark and pieces of the tree impale him deeply. Satsuki moved right towards Zaku and threw him right on the ground without even a single moment of hesitation. Blood escaped his mouth as Satsuki stomped on his back with such necessary force. "I'll take this up a notch." Satsuki grabbed Zaku's hand. He gritted his teeth, feeling the pain from the pull that Satsuki was giving. It was becoming unbearable. He couldn't feel his arm anymore. "Stop! Stop! Stop! Stop!" yelled Zaku, repeating these words with a slither of hope that Satsuki would show him just a tiny amount of remorse. Satsuki ignored his yelling and just simply tightened her grip on his arm. Everyone could hear a loud crack. Zaku froze almost immediately. The pain that his arm had was spreading and washing all over his body like a disease. He fell on the ground once Satsuki stopped her grip on his arm. The wicked grin was still on her face. "I'll finish you now." She took out a kunai and held it tightly. Without hesitation, she maneuvered her head so that she could stab Zaku and end his painful and pitiful life in an instant. "Stop!" She heard a voice order her with such conviction. It was Naruto's. Satsuki stopped halfway through. "Let me do it." Naruto stayed silent for a few moments. "Sorry, but I can't. Too problematic." But she didn't listen and turned around in a quick manner. Naruto nonchalantly dodged the kunai that Satsuki holding right in her hands. Satsuki threw a leg and aimed her foot right towards Naruto's throat. He reacted to this by slapping the leg away. Naruto then took her arm and dismantled her grip on the kunai. He used his leg and tripped her right on the dirt ground. "I told you, stop," said Naruto in a toxic and venomous tone. He sat right on top of her, gripping her arm with such intensity. Satsuki gritted her teeth. "Let me go." Naruto did not listen and tightened his grip on her arm. He leaned down right beside her ear so he could engage in a silent whisper. "Stop right now or I'll have to do something much more explicit." Satsuki shivered at the tone that Naruto had just conveyed to her. It was cold and full of darkness. The pitch-black flame marks started to retract. Naruto had a satisfied look on his face at the sight of this development. "Good. Now I don't have to do what I had in mind." Naruto slowly loosened the grip on her arm. He then lifted himself up from sitting on her back. Satsuki panted quickly as she got up from her defeated position. She glared deeply at Naruto. "You damn pervert," said Satsuki, coldly spatting her words at Naruto. He just looked at her with an apathetic look on his face. He shrugged his shoulders. "It seems the Otonin escaped while I was showing you some discipline." Satsuki looked around and saw that Dosu, Zaku, and Kin had successfully fled away from the fight. "Stop making it sound so lewd." Naruto gained a puzzled look as she started at Satsuki. "It was not my intention for it to sound lewd. That's just your mind interpreting it as a lewd sentence." She gritted her teeth since she was pretty much being called a dirty-minded individual. Satsuki was tired. The power that risen up through her body just a few moments ago was absolutely overwhelming. Satsuki looked right towards Naruto's figure with a gaze full of envy, and, for some reason, it still wasn't enough. "I felt the gap between our levels and power close in, but it still was not enough," Satsuki thought, looking where Naruto was staring at. Naruto was staring at some bushes. There were people hiding right behind there. Naruto thought, walking away from the sight of the bushes. He stopped right in front of Satsuki. He sighed before turning around and crouching downwards. She raised an eyebrow. Naruto looked back at the confused Satsuki that was sitting right behind him. "I'll give you a piggyback ride. Get on." She widened her eyes, vigorously shaking her head at him. "Why the hell would I do that?" Naruto shrugged. He gestured for her to get on his back. She still refused the very kind offer of a very kind person. "Do it. Unless you can walk properly, then I have no problem with you walking on your own. But that's not the case as of right now." Satsuki huffed in annoyance. She did not want to do this at all, but desperate times come with desperate measures as well. Satsuki sighed right after and just barely managed to get on Naruto's back. Oh, Naruto was correct about her not being able to move. Of course he was. He was always correct. "This is embarrassing," said Satsuki, scowling at the predicament that she was currently in. Naruto shrugged, not giving a care about what the two looked right at the moment. "This is much more efficient than having your unreliably fall every few seconds." He felt a sudden sharp pain rouse up from his very own body. "Just get moving." Naruto looked over at Sakura. She nodded, having an amused look on her face. "You two seem close." She smiled lightly at them. Satsuki was internally screaming her mind, heart, and body out just from hearing those words. I would prefer to ignore her existence altogether, but it seems she wanted me to associate with her. He got another bash on his head. Satsuki did not take his words lightly. "You're an asshole." "Great, thanks." They all started to move forward, but on a serious note, Satsuki will useful for me to use in the future, Naruto thought, carrying her on his back as they moved onwards. It seems the world has much more in store for them. Time to continue our search for the Heaven Scroll, Naruto thought, jumping through the trees all the while carrying the cliché damsel in distress right on his back. They had abruptly stopped as they peered right below them all. They raised an eyebrow at the sight right in front of them. "Kiba's team is having quite the trouble trying to defeat a bunch of pests," Satsuki said, scoffing with a hint of delight in her voice. Naruto raised an eyebrow. "You're feeling amusement seeing them struggle defeating them. Not very kind." Naruto shook his head at Satsuki. She just shrugged, not caring what Naruto had just told her. "What are you going to do about it?" "Throw you off the tree." She widened her eyes. Just before she was about to respond, Naruto and Sakura had jumped right down towards the ground below. It seems they had to help Kiba's team with this problem. It seems you need a bit of help here, said Naruto, announcing their arrival just before the Kiba, Shino, and Hinata decided to scram right off. What the hell are you doing here? Asked Kiba, gritting his teeth as he dodged an array of attacks from the assailant that was currently targeting him. We were passing by and decided to help, replied Naruto. He got a few narrowed eyes in return, but they did not question it any further than they wanted. You're here to help? We'll gladly take it. Surprisingly, it was not Kiba whom had said these words, but it was actually Shino who had responded to Naruto's reply. Sakura threw a kuna right towards the assailant that was targeting Kiba. The said assailant reacted quickly by jumping back. He gritted his teeth at her. You damn bitch, he yelled. The guy was about to charge towards the blossoms, but forgot that Naruto and Satsuki were still ever so present in the battle. A tremendous amount of heat washed over him. He widened his eyes, looking right towards the source of the overwhelming heat. Shit, he thought, seeing a pair of fireballs come right his way. Fear overtook his body as the fireball connected with his body. An explosion occurred. You know doing that was unnecessary for you to do. It's quite straining for your body. Naruto heard Satsuki scoff at his words in a venomous manner. I'm not the same little girl that you always had to help. I'm actually older than you. Doesn't that make it worse? You're older than me, but you act like a brat. If they were in any normal situation, Naruto would have felt pain that exact moment. But he was in luck. You're lucky that we're in battle, said Satsuki. Naruto ignored her and pushed onwards. Sakura followed right beside them as he carried Satsuki to the next target. Now, how about you be a good little girl and let me handle the fight? You're too tired. Satsuki seriously wanted to kill Naruto and every fiber of his being. TCH? Fine. I'm only doing this so I can save up energy to kill you later. Naruto ignored those words and approached the next assailant. You're so heavy, said Naruto, muttering his own words to himself as he outstretched his arm to power up his fist to the brim. The target managed to dodge in time before Naruto could make contact. Though, that won't be Inu Dash. He got cut off mid-sentence due to a sudden stab from his back. The assailant fell on the ground, staggering in unreal pain. He looked back. Sakura stood right behind him with her kunai all bloodied. He widened his eyes, feeling his consciousness slowly start to disappear once he got kicked in the face by Naruto. They now looked right towards the direction of the third and last assailant of the Genin team. Oh, it seems you all did it yourself, commented Naruto, glancing at Kiba, Shino, and Hinata without any fear linked whatsoever. Now, what kind of scroll did this team have? What kind of scroll do you have? Asked Naruto, looking right towards Kiba before turning his body around to where his back was now facing Kiba and the rest. We have Earth Scroll. How about you? We also have Earth Scroll. Naruto sighed right after. Satsuki held on to Naruto tightly as he looked at the items that the three Genin were carrying with them. Sadly, it seems there is no Heaven Scroll. Naruto pulled out an Earth Scroll and showed it to them. The tracker team, Team 8, nodded their heads at the sight right in front of them. We'll be using this for negotiation. Do you mind? Asked Naruto, holding out the Earth Scroll towards the team. Sure. It won't trouble us in the future since we ready have an Earth Scroll. Naruto nodded alongside the other two kunoichi of Konohagakure. Well, we'll be seeing you later, said Sakura. They started to walk away from the battlefield that they had participated in. Kiba looked at their retreating figures. Oi! How long has it been? He yelled behind them. Naruto raised an eyebrow, confused at what he was trying to tell them. What do you mean by that? Naruto thought, deciding against the idea of responding to a question that he had no knowledge of whatsoever. So he decided to ignore it altogether. Team 8 also started to retreat away from the battlefield. That was pretty clever, said Sakura, commenting on the plan that Naruto had just done right before their eyes. He just shrugged at Sakura as a response. It was a simple strategy that had a bit of flaws. Naruto pulled out a Heaven Scroll that he had gotten from the unconscious/sleeping bodies of the Genin team that they all had just fought. You might be wondering on what Naruto had done. Well, it was actually quite a simple plan that he had managed to accomplish on his own accord. though it does have many flaws that make it imperfect. Naruto had lied. Yes, that is correct. Naruto had lied about the kind of scroll that the opposing team had when they searched their unconscious bodies while in the forest. They actually had an heaven scroll instead of an earth scroll. Naruto knew that if they were to tell them the truth, the whole thing would have been a fight to the death between clashes. So he took advantage the way he was talking and facing to them. Instead of actually pulling out the heaven scroll that they had helped to attain, he pulled out the earth scroll that they possessed instead. But there are flaws in this that are not too much noticeable. It was obvious that there was a possible percentage that Shino's bugs were monitoring what Naruto had been doing. But there was only real question. Why didn't he call him out? But that doesn't matter right now. If he did call out my lie, then we would have to engage in a fight that Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura would be winning the fight without much flaws. Alright, all we have to do is reach the middle. Naruto thought, jumping from tree to tree. Chapter 38. Preliminary. Naruto the two others jumped from tree to tree. Out of the 5 days that they were all given, they were able to complete it within 2 to 3 days. Though Naruto did feel slight unsatisfied knowing that they could have done exponentially better if Orochimaru hadn't appeared right before them. If Naruto could estimate an exact time, it would have been possible for them to clear the Forest of Death in just a few hours if they put their mind to it. The people I'm facing, they're getting stronger by the day. Me, on the other hand, it feels like I'm stagnant in growth. Naruto thought. He noticed this as he fought in the Chunin exams. While I am still stronger than them by a considerable extent, they are catching up like a wildfire. Team 7 launched themselves off of the tree that they were currently on. I'm weak. I'm stagnant. I'm incompetent. I need power. Naruto internally wanted to punch a tree just right about now. Why was he feeling this way? He never felt such a level of incompetence ever in his life. Naruto has always been at the top. He has always been the strongest and the smartest. But he is now starting to feel doubt in his own abilities. To think being in a village that preaches about the will of fire would make him feel this way. I've grown weak just from my stay in this village. It has pierced through my exterior through relentless force. I can't have that happen to me. Naruto thought. He knows what is needed to be done for him to rebuild the walls all around him. If me staying in the village is the cause of such thing, then the most efficient way is to sever it. Naruto thought with the apathetic face of his. But it'll take time for him to sever it. He knows this quite thoroughly. This is due to the reason that Naruto still has unfinished business that needs to be attended in the near future. I just need 2 years for it to happen. Naruto and the other two continued to jump from tree to tree with such ease and elegance. It was only a matter of time before they reached their destination. Trust no one. You only need yourself. Naruto thought as he told himself this. They had reached the tower without much trouble along the way. Naruto was actually quite surprised that no one had tried ambushing them when they were going to the tower. It was quite an efficient place to begin with. People who go to the tower are people that usually have the 2 scrolls within their own grasp. The ambushers just have to wait at the near end of the tower for their victims. But them actually getting the scrolls from their victims is a whole different story. If they are incompetent, then they won't get it from then, unless if the opposing team is also weak as well. The ambushers just have to pray that the team that they are trying to ambush are not strong. A simple flaw in a plan like that is very dangerous and could risk the possibility of getting to the next phase of the Chunin exams. Though Naruto didn't really care about them. The less competition, the better. They wailed inside the lengthy tower and saw writings on the wall right in front of them. There was a sudden moment of silence before they started to speak up. If heaven does not exist, enrich your knowledge, prepare for the chance. If earth does not exist, run the fields in search of an advantage. Open the series of heaven and earth, and the perilous way shall be redressed. Sakura was the one that had addressed this to them. There was another moment of silence. It's telling us to open the scrolls, I think, said Sakura, suggesting that they should open the scrolls. The two nodded, knowing that was indeed an option for them to take. I agree with Sakura, said Satsuki. Same here, replied Naruto. He handed Satsuki the heaven scroll that they had within their grasp. The two readied themselves for the worst. Remember, stay on guard just in case we made a blunder. The other two nodded at the words that Naruto had delivered to them. Naruto and Satsue stood frozen for a moment or two before they threw the scrolls on the ground. It landed just a few meters away from them. Ready yourselves. The three pulled out a kunai from their holster just as smoke started to seep out of the scrolls right in front of them all. There was suspense that loomed all throughout the air. The three held their kunai very tightly. If they made an error in their theory, then they most certainly had to ready themselves for the worst-case scenario. Their eyes watched as a lone silhouette appeared in the abundance of smoke covering their view. The figure started to move right towards them in utter silence. Irika-sensei, he appeared from the disappearing smoke. Irika gave them a soft smile as he stood right in front of them in all his glory. "Why are you here?" asked Sakura. "Well, I was tasked to be the messenger for you guys," said Irika. There was a moment of silence before Irika continued to explain what was currently happening. "You three managed to complete and survive the second test with just about 3 days left remaining." They nodded, now knowing the amount of time that they had spent inside of the forest. "We could have done it much earlier if that damn snake didn't interfere," thought Satsuki, internally souring up just from thinking of such a possibility of them completing in just a few hours. "Say, how many other teams have made it here?" asked Naruto, curious on the information that they could possibly attain just from this simple question. "You'd be surprised. Only one other team has made it." Naruto and Satsuki instantly knew what team it was, although they didn't actually speak up on their thoughts. "If we were to have opened the scrolls while we were still outside, what would have happened to us?" asked Sakura, wondering what the consequence of doing such an action. Irika just lets out a slight chuckle in response. "I'll let you three imagine it. It's better that way." Anko sat right in front of Hiruzen alongside the other 4 Jonin senseis. She had just been in a battle with Orochimaru. She lost overwhelmingly. Anko had her hand right over the curse mark that was on her shoulder. There was an eerie amount of silence in the atmosphere. "What could he be after?" asked Asuma, using an already used cigarette in his mouth. Anko thought about it for a moment and recalled what Orochimaru had told her. "I seek a girl whom inherited the last genes of the Uchiha." Before Anko could say the words, Hiruzen interjected with his very own words that came from deduction and reasoning. "He's after Uchiha Satsuki. Am I wrong?" "No, you are absolutely correct." Hiruzen sighed. He had wished it was incorrect and not the former. But beggars can't be choosers. The air around them was tense. "But why of all times?" asked Kakashi. "That's what we're wondering also," said Kurenai, nodding her head at the question. Hiruzen just lets out a plume of smoke that was held captive inside of his mouth. "That is also something I am wondering myself. We can only guess as of right now." This also brought up a question from Kakashi himself. It was a serious manner. Could Orochimaru also be after Naruto? Hiruzen thought about this idea for a moment or two. Possibly. Naruto's capabilities and prowess in the shinobi arts is something that we have only seen in Namake's Minato and Uchiha Itachi. He's a force to be reckoned with. Orochimaru most certainly saw his talents. Great, now they had 2 people in danger. But if Naruto had used his Sharingan to fight against Orochimaru, then there is absolutely no doubt he will be after him also. Even though he has those contact lenses, he has expressed numerous times that he disliked them for obvious reasons. Hiruzen thought, God, they were in a predicament. Well, we have to get going. The Chunin exams are just about done. I am Gecko Hayato. He coughed once right after. Just before we begin, I would like to explain the preliminary rounds. This caused many to raise an eyebrow at the words that rushed out of the man's mouth. Wait, aren't we doing the 3rd test? Asked someone in the crowd. Normally we would have done that, but there seems to be too many people here. Even more coughs followed up right after the explanation given to them. Those who wish to drop out right now may do what they wish. More coughs entered right after. Hayato pointed right towards the exit. We will be starting immediately, so any injuries you have will greatly affect your performance. These caused complaints from numerous genin in the crowd. Man, what about the food? Thought Choji, complaining about his empty stomach as usual. But it seems as though he had to persevere on this matter. I would like to drop out, said Kabuto, raising his hand up in the air. Hayato looked at the list of people that he had. You are Yakushi Kabuto of Konoha, right? He nodded at Hayato. "You are free to leave," said Hayato. He nodded and walked away from the arrays of students that were lined up. As he left, Sakura looked at Satsuki. "Satsuki-san, you should drop out." Satsuki turned around, shaking her head towards Sakura. "No need. I am most certainly able to keep going in this condition." Satsuki winced in pain as she felt the curse mark suddenly make her feel pain. "That is enough reason to drop out. We don't know if that thing is endangering your life." Satsuki gritted her teeth as she looked right towards Sakura. "I told you I can keep going, but you're injured right now." Satsuki growled her with much annoyance. "You don't tell me what I do. It's my own decision if I keep going or not." She did not like being ordered by someone. Naruto was an exception. The reasons for this is quite obvious. Sakura looked at Naruto, hoping for him to back her up. Naruto raised an eyebrow at Sakura in confusion. "I think we should just let do what she wants to do. If she somehow gets seriously injured because of that mark, then it'll be her fault for being so stubborn." But Naruto knew better than this. This reason was just a front for his true reasoning. "If I see her fight, then that mark will surely do something. I want to know the ins and outs of the mark that Orochimaru gave her. Her fighting will be my ticket to that knowledge." Naruto thought as he observed the two others. "What she does and wants to do is something we can't decide. You can keep on trying to tell her to drop out, but it'll most definitely not work at all." And that was a good thing on Naruto's end. Sakura soon gave up on telling Satsuki to give up. Satsuki looked at Naruto. "Thanks." He just shrugged in response. In the end, Naruto will gain valuable information that he can't ever forget in the future. To keep this explanation short and simple, there will be two people in the arena. He then pointed towards an electronic board on the wall that was slowly revealing itself to the word. The two fighters will be determined through this electronic board. They will then fight in the arena as expected. They nodded in response to those words. Many people were excited to fight their opponent. Some hoped that their opponent was going to be weak. Some hoped that their opponent will be strong. Either way, Naruto planned to win an overwhelming victory against his opponent. He was lacking in power significantly. While he is still indeed better than almost 97% of the whole room, he knew that he was lacking. His intelligence is something that is compensating for the lackluster of power. Of course, Naruto wouldn't do something like go to Orochimaru and ask for power. Satsuki is the only one that is going to do that. Not him. Now, please look at the electronic board to see who the two people will be. Everyone that was present nodded and looked right towards the board. Their eyes locked right onto the screen. Naruto looked at the two names right on the board. An internal smirk crept right up inside of his own body. Ahiku Naruto versus Abumi Zaku. Oh? So he was able to get payback. Naruto took a quick glance at Zaku and saw that he was grinning. He then looked away from him and focused back on Hayato. "All right, everyone except the two who appeared on the board shall go up the stands." Everyone nodded and made their way to spectate the battle that was about to happen right in front of their own eyes. Kakashi walked right towards Naruto and handed him a small case. He raised an eyebrow at his own sensei. "Contacts? You know?" Kakashi nodded at Naruto. This confirmed his speculation on the upper-ups knowing about the appearance of Orochimaru. "These are the same as the ones that you used to have. I figured I should have bought another one, since there are chances of you losing the contacts." Naruto nodded, taking the contacts off of his grasp. He put the contacts on. As good as new. Naruto thought, though he was indeed irritated that he had to wear such things again. But all good things come to an end. Kakashi then walked away with his Ikaraika novel in hand. Naruto looked right towards at the Zaku, whom had a massive devilish grin right on his face. "This is my revenge," said Zaku. Naruto stood there, silently waiting for the match to start. He observed Zaku's current physical state. Oh, he is seriously way too arrogant. But Naruto did have doubt about this. Though he had no ambition to actually think about it, Naruto he had a sneaking suspicion about something right now. Kukuku. I wonder if he is worthy of being a backup vessel. Orochimaru thought, analyzing Naruto's actions to the absolute T. He knew that he was indeed much more powerful than Satsuki, but if his potential is too great, then I'll have to wipe him out of existence. Thought the slippery snake. But there is a chance that he could use Naruto as a potential pawn in the end. Hayato looked between the two contestants. I'll wipe off that apathetic face of yours. Zaku readied himself to fight the monstrous being named Naruto. At the stands, predictions were made on who would win the fight. Who do you think will win? Asked Kakashi. He was directing this question towards the two girls on the team. Naruto will definitely win, Satsuki and Sakura said in unison. Kakashi chuckled at their immediate, rapid, and simultaneous response to his question. I would say whom I am voting for, but that's favoritism. Isn't it? The other two stayed silent and just looked right towards the ground in anticipation. Naruto stayed silent with his emotionless face. To think you would know the meaning of the word apathetic, but I think the word pathetic suits you. This sudden remark got the rise out of Zaku. You may second start, announced Hayato, jumping back away to avoid getting hit during the process. Naruto stood still, letting Zaku rush in towards him without any plan to impede him. His eyes traveled all around to observe Zaku's movements. It seems like his movement has diminished and have been reduced to the injury? Maybe, though probably not. Zaku threw a nasty but sloppy punch right towards Naruto's face. He easily dodged the punch with such ease that even an academy student could do better. Naruto jumped just slightly right over of this mess. He then twisted his body to deliver a kick towards Zaku's face. But Zaku managed to catch the leg just in the nick of time. What are you gonna do? He had a smug smirk on his face as he gazed into the eyes Naruto. He gazed back at him. This? Naruto said, maneuvering his other leg up and down on Zaku's face. He widened his eyes, letting go of Naruto's leg, and jumping away just before the impact. There was now space and distance between the two shinobi. Naruto looked over at Zaku as he neatly landed on the ground, his apathetic eyes never leaving. You know, said Naruto, you won't be able to defeat me with just one arm. Zaku gritted his at the statement that was just made from Naruto. Unless you want an overwhelming defeat. Naruto appeared right behind Zaku. Use your other arm, fake. He then pressed his foot on his back and kicked him away meters ahead. Such speed. These were the thoughts of the spectators that were currently watching. Zaku glared at him as he stood up from his defeated position. I'll wipe your apathetic and cocky attitude off the face of the earth, Zaku yelled, using his free arm and snatching the cloth right off of his arm. Now, I'll show you true power and destruction. He yelled once more, putting his arms and hands outwards towards Naruto. But he did not fret whatsoever. You're building quite the amount of power. I would initiate the plan I thought of, but Naruto started to weave multiple hand seals in the blink of an eye. Snake, ram, monkey, boar, horse, tiger. If I want to cancel out the power, I'll need rivaling or even stronger output. Naruto thought, inhaling a great amount of air into his very lively lungs. Fire release. Great fireball jutsu. Naruto then exhaled to let out a massive fireball. Zaku widened his eyes and quickened himself to release the jutsu that he had in mind. Extreme decapitating airwaves. Zaku released such a powerful blast from the palm of his hands. Such power was indeed much more stronger than just the regular ones that he uses. But Zaku did not expect that once the two jutsus collided, for the fireball to actually rival it in power. How? He thought as an explosion occurred due to the jutsus clashing. Zaku put his forearms up to cover his eyes. His smoke was unbearable to see. Did it work? Zaku's heartbeat was quick. He was nervous. He was scared. He was scared of the power that Naruto held. I'm sorry, but even your best efforts won't be enough. He widened his eyes even further just from hearing the tone of Naruto's very own voice. The smoke cleared as Naruto jumped into the air. Shadow Clone Jutsu. One clones appeared right beside Naruto as he was swaying through the air. There was now two Narutos present in the room now. One of the Narutos did a set of hand seals. The other one did another different set of hand seals. Snake, ram, monkey, boar, horse, tiger. Tiger, ox, dog, rabbit, snake. His clone inhaled a sharp breath. Fire release. Great fireball jutsu. The clone then exhaled to let out another fireball towards Zaku at an intense speed. The real Naruto exhaled. Wind release. Great breakthrough, Naruto, then exhaled the wind jutsu that was held captive inside of his mouth. This caused the wind jutsu to empower the fireball. Another massive explosion occurred. As time went on, the smoke started to slowly disappear and disperse into pure nothingness. Naruto saw Zaku just barely standing on his own 2 feet. Since it seems you're at your limit, I'll finish this with my final technique. Like before, Naruto jumped up in the air and summoned one clone right beside him. The clone then threw him right towards Zaku. Just before making contact, Zaku managed to dodge the attack just barely. But Naruto already had a plan if such a thing happened. He turned on his Sharingan. His contact lenses were covering Naruto's Sharingan to a very good extent. Naruto placed his 2 hands on the ground, launched himself off the ground. This is true grace, Naruto thought, planning his every move. He was in the air, twirling as his eyes were set right on his target, Abomi Zaku. As his body made its way towards the ground, Naruto summoned another clone to throw him up in the air once more. Naruto pulled out 2 kunais from his holster and held it tightly as he glided through the air. His eyes traveled back to Zaku and he threw right towards him. Zaku couldn't dodge and felt the 2 kunai pierce through his shoulder flesh. He yelped in pain. Zaku was now panting at a very quick rate due to the amount of pain that he was experiencing. Naruto landed on the ground safely and soundly. "I win," said Naruto, pulling Zaku closer to him. He pulled back his arm to generate power. Once Zaku was close enough, Naruto released the power in his fist and punched Zaku in the face. Those 2 kunais were laced with ninja wires that I had hidden in my holster, Naruto thought, gazing at Zaku as he dropped on the ground, utterly defeated. Winner, Ahiku Naruto. Chapter 39, Internal Problems. Naruto looked over at the unconscious Zaku one last time before walking away from his existence. Everyone was silent from this single battle. It was so one-sided. Everything that occurred all throughout the battle was on the terms of Naruto's. He pushed his hands into his pockets and walked right on to the spectating area. Naruto stopped and stood right beside Satsuki in utter silence. His apathetic face glanced over at the medics attending over at the bruised and battered Zaku. Satsuki sighed at Naruto's attitude. "You know, Naruto, it would have been better if you had finished the battle quicker." Naruto shrugged at Satsuki's words with absolutely no enthusiasm indicated. "I guess. But, oh, it seems like Naruto had a reason for doing so." "Spill it," ordered Satsuki, gazing at Naruto. He sighed, knowing that Satsuki won't stop berating him if he didn't tell her why he didn't finish the fight quicker. "As you know, his team was targeting us in the Forest of Death." Satsuki nodded. It seems like Naruto was talking quite loudly to the point where other people were attentively listening to their conversation. While our team did overwhelmingly defeat them without much effort, they still had lots of confidence in themselves. Them defeating their team was not much of a surprise. At first, I wasn't going to go through this plan, but I conveniently got paired up with Zaku for the first round. This caught the attention of many around them, including Orochimaru. And that plan was? Naruto sighed at Satsuki's assertiveness. To destroy their morale. People slightly widened their eyes at the words that Naruto had said. Why would Naruto want to destroy another team's morale? As long as they have confidence in their abilities, they'll continue to target us under orders from a certain person. So by showing a difference between our strength to theirs, it'll show them how hopeless they are, though he wasn't done talking, thus making them lose their morale during the process of it all. Even though it was a pain to have to do such a thing, it was a necessary step in the process. There was a moment of silence. "You're crazy," said Satsuki, shaking her head at Naruto's unorthodox way of solving things, though it seems Naruto doesn't care all that much at all. "Thanks for the compliment. That was not a comply, never mind." Everyone waited for the next matchup to be decided. Though while Naruto could indeed observe what could happen, he was not interested in doing such a thing. For the people who wield strong power or high intelligence, these preliminary rounds should be considered a piece of cake. But people who wield both are the most dominant. After quite some time, Naruto saw a familiar name grace the electronic board. Uchiha Satsuki versus Akado Yoroi. Naruto looked over at Satsuki, whom had a slight smirk appear right on her face. Oh, it seems she is liking this outcome quite too well for her standards. Good. This will be a good time for me to observe that mark that is on her shoulder. Naruto thought as Satsuki walked down the stairs to the arena. His eyes darted from Satsuki to the guy Yoroi. Naruto. He heard someone call out his name. Naruto turned towards the person whom that had called him out. It was Kakashi. I would like to ask for a favor. He leaned in towards Naruto's ear and started to whisper what he wanted Naruto to actually do. After a few more moments, Naruto nodded his head. I guess that can be arranged. Though I don't get why you need me to do this. Kakashi just smiled. She trusts you more than anyone else. I think you doing it would be much more ideal. Naruto sighed, but nodded his head towards the favor/request that Kakashi had just made. He looked back towards the fight. Man, he had already missed a few seconds of the battle. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the battle that was currently occurring. It seems Satsuki is not fighting a full strength. She's avoiding using chakra at all cost. Naruto thought, internally noting this bit of information inside of his head. This probably means that curse mark thingy responds and reacts to her chakra. Naruto thought as he saw Satsuki dodge an attack from Yoroi. The outcome of the battle was very split. He is able to absorb chakra. Interesting. Naruto mused to himself, carefully eyeing each move and action that Satsuki and Yoroi does every moment that passes. Though it seems it is not the most versatile way. Having to actually create contact with your opponent can prove rather difficult to some degree. This was especially true if your opponent is faster than the user of the technique. But it seems to be working in his favor. Naruto thought as he looked at Satsuki's weak form. God, this was actually quite humiliating for Satsuki herself. Should I try and give her motivation? I should. I want to fight her. Naruto saw Satsuki break free from Yoroi's hold rather slowly. To think he was capable to drain this much chakra in such a short amount of time. Why is Satsuki-san not using jutsus? Asked Sakura quietly. The other genin did not know of this development that involved the curse mark. That mark on her shoulder responds to her chakra. If she carelessly uses her chakra, it'll without a doubt activate and try to corrode her. Sakura nodded, understanding what the curse mark was capable of. After a few moments, Satsuki was driven into a corner. Her eyes darted around everywhere around the arena. The distance between her and Yoroi was quite substantial. Her eyes finally landed on Naruto's. She slightly widened her eyes before dodging another attack from Yoroi. She widened her eyes not because of the attack from before, but from Naruto's gaze. Just from eye contact alone, she understood what he wanted to say to her. You call yourself an Uchiha? Pathetic. Of course these words were influenced by her pessimistic self, but they were certainly close enough to where it's true. That damn bitch. Satsuki thought, just barely kicking away the kick that was sent her way from Yoroi. Is this your way of motivating me? You're a lunatic. She pushed her hand into her holster and pulled out a kunai. With very sharp precision, Satsuki threw the kunai right towards Yoroi at insane speeds. That won't be enough to defeat me, Yoroi said, using a kunai of his own to deflect the kunai that Satsuki had thrown right towards her. He looked towards Satsuki's direction and widened his eyes. Where the hell is she? Yoroi thought, tensing up a considerable amount before feeling a sharp and sudden pain breach his abdomen. His eyes widened further as he was knocked away. Satsuki wasn't done and jumped in the air, all the while going through a set of hand seals. Snake, ram, monkey, boar, horse, tiger. As she inhaled in the air around her, she widened her eyes. The curse mark was activating and trying to corrode her. Satsuki gritted her teeth at this development. I got too carried away and tried using chakra. She thought as the flickering flames started to cover her face. Naruto noticed this and internally sighed at Satsuki. Though he would have just done some motivational speech to Satsuki, there was simply just too much people here. It would just be repulsive to the point he would rather die than do such a thing. A speech to motivate her is not something I would do at all. Naruto thought, gazing at Satsuki as she struggled to break free from the shackles of the curse mark. There was a simple problem about Satsuki that Naruto knew of. She is too reliant on me. It's a codependency type thing. She has an excessive reliance on me that is holding her back. Even though other people haven't noticed this, I have. Naruto thought as he continued to gaze at Satsuki. This is partly the reason why I need her to go to Orochimaru. Not only is she holding herself back just from being too reliant on me, but I am affected by this. There were actually very clear reasons on why this is the case. I've said this many times before, but I have grown an emotional attachment to her. I need that emotional attachment to halt itself from ascending to new heights. Naruto thought as Satsuki started to slowly overcome the curse mark's influence. I won't let that attachment to ever rise again. Until I am ready, of course. He took necessary precaution just in case something went horribly wrong in the future. I won't deny it, but if I let that emotional attachment rotten, then it'll affect me too. There is no doubt about that. Naruto is smart and knows a lot about the psychological part of a person. My mental state will surely plummet down. Naruto continued to observe and predict the outcome of the battle. Even though Satsuki was indeed very handicapped, she would ultimately win in the end. Her skills far surpassed his without any question. Naruto thought, seemingly satisfied once he saw Satsuki persevere through the influence of the curse mark. The flickering flames that threatened to corrode and run amok was now surrendering to Satsuki's own will and were now receding back to the mark. She then exhaled the built-up chakra from within and sets out a large fireball towards Yoroi. Once she landed back down, Satsuki felt pain arise from the mark once more. With just a slither amount of chakra left, she maneuvered her way around the abundance of smoke that littered all throughout the arena that her and Yoroi were currently fighting in. Yoroi was on alert. The amount of smoke that was covering the arena was indeed quite a huge problem for him. A bead of sweat slowly slithered down his face. Where is she? Here? No. There? No. Where? Yoroi thought. This was proving to be rather difficult by a very large extent. Naruto was actually amused by this. Even though I can't see it, I just know that Satsuki is trying to break him down mentally. Naruto thought, seeing the smoke clear out slightly. She was making Yoroi way too over-paranoid. Yoroi suddenly felt a sharp pain enter and course through his face. He widened his eyes as he got knocked away by Satsuki's punch to the face. Yoroi fell down a few meters away from her, but it seems like Satsuki was far from down. As Yoroi moved to get up, a kunai was sent towards his eyes. He widened them and just barely dodged the kunai. It left a slight cut on his cheek. He panted as he jumped up immediately. You seem to be getting tired. He dodged a punch to the left. Yoroi then dodged another punch from Satsuki. He caught sight of the arm and tried to get hold of it to drain the chakra once more. You're done, thought Yoroi, reaching out towards her arm in order to have his plans become reality. But it seems Satsuki came prepared and pulled out another kunai with her other hand. With not much time left to decide on the next action, Satsuki impaled Yoroi's hand that he tried attacking her with. A wound appeared right on Yoroi's hand. Blood splattered from the wound and onto Yoroi's mask. He was in complete daze. Satsuki took advantage of this and jumped slightly in the air. She used her foot and brought it up to his face, kicking him back to the concrete floor. His head bashed right on the ground. Even more blood escaped from his head, soaking the concrete ground with the dark crimson color. Satsuki landed back on the ground. Winner, Uchiha Satsuki. The crowd cheered at the victory of Satsuki. Naruto internally deadpanned at this. Wow. You cheer for her and not for me? I'm totally hurt, Naruto thought. He noticed how those thoughts were so unbelievably fake that it made him cringe internally. I must be bad at acting. Naruto continued to muse. Kakashi disappeared and reappeared right behind Satsuki. We need that mark sealed. Come with me. Satsuki sighed, nodding her head in understanding. They walked off. Once they disappeared, Naruto sighed, looking up towards the ceiling. Can't believe I have to do this, muttered Naruto, also disappearing from the arena in complete silence. Kakashi brought Satsuki in an empty and secluded area that had stone pillars surrounding them. Satsuki saw a sealing array already pre-made before they had gotten here. How are we going to seal the mark? Asked Satsuki, pointing right towards the curse mark that was imprinted on her shoulder. Kakashi pointed towards the middle of the ritual-like thingy. Walk over there and sit down. She nodded, walking right towards her designated place in complete silence. Now what? Satsuki asked, looking at Kakashi. There was a moment of silence. A very, very eerie amount of silence that dawned on the two of them. Kakashi suddenly eye-smiled as he took out straps of bandages. "Take off your shirt." Satsuki widened her eyes as she caught the bandages that Kakashi had thrown right towards her. She fumbled while trying to catch it. "What the hell? There is no way I am going to do such a thing." Satsuki glared the closet pervert right in front of her. What the hell was he asking? "Relax. It's not like I'm the one that is going to do the sealing." Satsuki narrowed her paranoid eyes at Kakashi. "What do you mean by that?" Kakashi continued to eye-smile at Satsuki. God, Kakashi was such a vague and annoying person to talk and converse with. Someone else is going to do the sealing. Duh. Satsuki could suddenly hear footsteps approach their location. It kept on getting louder and louder by the second. "Why do I have to do this again?" asked Naruto as he lazily walked and got closer to them. Satsuki widened her eyes in realization on what was about to happen. "No. There is no way I am letting him do anything." Naruto looked at Kakashi. "See? Can I go now?" Kakashi chuckled as he shook his head at him. "Ah, Naruto. There is no way I am letting you do that. You're going to do this for me since she obviously doesn't trust me to do anything." Kakashi disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Naruto just sighed, looking right over at Satsuki. "You heard sensei. Take off your shirt and put on the bandages." Satsuki scowled with displeasure shown on her face. "No way." Naruto raised an eyebrow at those defying and retaliating words. He was getting nowhere with this kind of wording with her. But he was too tired/lazy to do something much more forceful. "Just do it, Satsuki. I promise that I won't peek for even a second." "TCH? Fine. But remember, if you look, I'll kill you in the worst possible way." Naruto nodded, understanding what Satsuki was currently telling him to do. Yeah, just go on with it. I'll look away." Naruto turned around, no longer having his eyes linger on Satsuki. After a few moments, Naruto heard Satsuki wrap the bandages around her body. "You can turn now," said Satsuki embarrassingly. He then turned around slowly. Now I get why the boys are all so attracted to Satsuki, Naruto thought as he walked right behind the seated Satsuki. He pulled out a kunai and created a small gash on his finger. "Hurry up, idiot. I'm starting to wonder if you're actually enjoying looking at me." Satsuki glared at the floor that she was currently seated on. "Believe me, I'm not." Naruto started to quicken his pace. Once Naruto was finished, he looked right over at Satsuki's displeased and displeasured face. "You ready? This is going to hurt you. Maybe even make you pass out." God, those words sounded so lewd. Satsuki nodded vigorously, obviously wanting to have this end and done with. "Just do it," ordered Satsuki, gritting her teeth in anger at the predicament that she was currently in. Naruto nodded at those words and started weave a set of hand seals. Hare, snake, horse, ram, bird, tiger, hare, snake, horse, ram, bird, tiger, hare, snake, horse, ram, bird, dog, rat. Evil sealing method. Once Naruto finished the hand seals, he maneuvered his hand to where his palm would just barely hover right over Satsuki's curse mark. He saw Satsuki tense up her body. "Ag!" She yelled in pain. The blood on the ground started to move in an orderly fashion. Once the blood had finally reached the curse mark on her shoulder, it solidified and wrapped itself around the mark. "There!" Naruto heard Satsuki pant for a few seconds before crashing on the floor, passing out. Naruto looked right up and above towards the ceiling. The effectiveness of this jutsu is determined through a person's will. Even though I obviously didn't tamper with the jutsu, I still need her to be engulfed by the need for power. Though I am sure she will most likely resort to using the curse mark sooner or later down the line. Naruto thought as he soon sighed after. He heard footsteps. "Kukuku, impressive. To think you already have skill to use Fuinjutsu. I might have to make you my minion." Naruto turned around slowly and saw Orochimaru lurking right behind one of those stone pillars. "As expected, you have come here. You expected me to do this? You're quite keen." Naruto stood silent before pulling out a kunai from his holster. "If you came here to get Satsuki, then you won't be leaving here without a wound. Is that a threat?" "No, it's a promise. I know you have plans for Satsuki over here. I just don't know what those plans are." Orochimaru just lets out a very malicious chuckle from his mouth. Then how about you side with me? You'll surely know if you do so. I'd rather not. You're better off leaving. There is no way I am letting things go your way. Naruto did not feel fear. The fear that he felt while he first fought Zabuza was merely a learning experience. There is no way I am letting fear overtake my consciousness. Naruto thought, recalling back to the memory of his cowardliness and pure weakness. Such things were never going to happen ever again. Kukuku. I like your resolve and conviction. I'll take up your offer and leave as you want. Though you won't be having it your way the next time we meet. Orochimaru soon disappeared out of existence. After a moment or two, Naruto sighed. I'll be honest, even if I didn't feel any fear right there, I knew I was outclassed against him in everything but intelligence. If we fought, only a minor cut would have been made. Naruto thought, turning back towards Satsuki. He looked at her. Contrary to popular belief, Naruto did find Satsuki very attractive for their age. Naruto tried taking his eyes off of her, but he couldn't do it. He clenched his fist as he once again tried to peer his eyes off of her body all at once. There were many thoughts going through his head. Those thighs, lips, no. Stop, 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 Naruto thought, feeling his mouth twitch in frustration. He gulped as he felt the unstoppable desire to look at her body and its proportions. God, puberty and his hormones were literally raging out of control. Naruto took initiative and took Satsuki's shirts and placed it right over her. I'm currently having internal problems, Naruto thought. Chapter 40, Gates. Satsuki felt someone or something poking her. With much irritation, she slapped the person away. Ow, said Naruto in a very monotonous tone. Satsuki immediately reacted to this sudden noise and jumped up. She was startled from Naruto's apathetic nature. What the hell was that? Asked Satsuki, demanding an answer from Naruto, though he just raised an eyebrow at Satsuki with pure confusion tied around it. What? I think we are intimate enough to where I can poke your cheek to wake you up, right? He got a glare in return from Satsuki herself. She disagrees? Naruto had no idea what Satsuki was talking about. Due to his upbringing and lack of interaction throughout his days before becoming a ninja for Konoha, he didn't have the necessary social behavior that expected of him. A lot of it was quite transparent if you just look a tiny bit closer. Naruto's tendency to be straightforward can make him get into awkward situations, or even hurt people. Don't ever do that again. Naruto just stares at her rather questionably. This creates a rather weird feeling in the atmosphere that the two were currently in. Can you stop that? It annoys me. Naruto shrugged at her demanding nature and stood right up. He turned around and slowly began to walk away from her. Hey, where are you going? There's no way you're to leave me here, right? Satsuki yelled at him as he continued to walk away from her. Naruto shrugged at her. I do not know, though I have been waiting for quite a bit. While I could watch your cute fumbling, I'd rather just leave and watch the future battles. Satsuki immediately got up to put her shirt back on. What do you mean by cute fumbling? You have a death wish. Naruto looked back, shrugging his shoulders once more. If he had to be totally honest, he just had the urge to say something like that. Satsuki caught up with Naruto and walked right beside him. Naruto felt a sudden sharp pain arise from his body. Ow! There was once again a monotonous tone that echoed all throughout the secluded place that the two were currently residing in. Stop that! Naruto and Satsuki made it back to the exam area and saw both Sakura and Inotai in their battle. The two just observed from the spectating area. That's to be expected, said Satsuki, downplaying Sakura's skills as a future kunoichi for Konoha. Naruto just raised an eyebrow and shrugged in response. I guess. Though while she has the intellect to form strategies, she doesn't have the necessary power to carry them out. The rest of the genin here are quite skilled as well. Satsuki looked at the rest of the contestants. Kakashi smiled at Naruto. Well, how broad of a mindset you have, praised Kakashi. That sounds like sarcasm, Satsuki said, giving Kakashi a weirded out look. Naruto had to agree. Kakashi definitely sounded very sarcastic with that remark. Over the course of the rounds, Naruto observed a lot of people battle it out. Even though a lot of them battled, None of them piqued his interest at all. But it was now the last and final round of the preliminary rounds that were currently being held at this exact moment in time. And coincidentally, this round was getting him interested. Rock Lee versus Gaara of the Sand. Naruto thought, looking at the two participants that were making their way towards the arena. He watched closely as the two remained silent. It's odd seeing green spandex-san not energetic. Naruto thought, observing each of their movements to the T. This will indeed be a fascinating battle that he can use for future purposes. Naruto looked to the side and saw Satsuki just as fascinated and interested. He looked back towards the battle that was about to start right before their eyes. Hayato went to the center. Begin! He jumped back, avoiding the abundance of sand that was unleashed from Gaara's gourd. As this happened, Naruto heard footsteps right beside him. War Paint-san. Naruto thought, looking at Kankuro with such calculating eyes. Kankuro stood right next to him. What the hell does he want from him? Naruto looked back towards the battle and saw Lee engage in close combat. Each punch and kick that Lee threw, sand protected Gaara with absolute speed. After a moment or two, the sand that Gaara was controlling flew up into the air and dived down right towards Lee. In that split second, Lee managed to dodge before the sand connected. The sand is both used as an offense and defense. Interesting, Naruto thought, continuing on his observation on the battle right in front of his eyes. You make things awkward. Naruto raised an eyebrow, looking right beside him. It was Kankuro. I have no reason to instigate a conversation with you, nor do I have any intention of doing so, said Naruto bluntly and straightforwardly. Again, this was an example of his horrible human interaction skills. You're quite cold. It seems so. Naruto turned back towards the battle and saw Lee get thrown right towards the wall. Your brother is strong, said Naruto, continuing the conversation that he, before, had no intention continuing. Kankuro raised an eyebrow at him. I thought you said you had no intention of continuing or forming a conversation with me. Naruto raised an eyebrow slightly as he looked at the battle. I just took pity on you. A vein popped and appeared on Kankuro's forehead. I'll kill you for saying that. Though he did not speak these words, he merely just thought about it. Naruto saw Lee repeatedly dodge the severing sand that was controlled by Gaara. Sand. Is it possible? Naruto thought, trailing his thoughts away from the battle for a moment or two before shaking his head. No, I'll think about it later. He mused, putting his focus back towards the battle that was happening right in front of him at this current moment in time. His eyes moved from one place to another with thorough inspection. Naruto saw Lee relentlessly dodging the sand that hurtled their way towards him. Though as he moved, Naruto saw something quite interesting. Are those weights? Naruto thought as he saw a slight bulge on both of Lee's legs. Some may say that those were just how those leg warmers were made, but Naruto begged to differ. No, I am certain those are weights without a doubt. Naruto continued thinking and thinking. After some time, Lee jumped into the air, spinning around until he landed on the humongous statue that was present. Gaara stopped his advancements and just looked up towards the taijutsu user. He had overheard the conversation that the others were having and heard that Lee was incapable of using anything but taijutsu. Naruto was truly fascinated by this sight right in front of him. Lee-sensei has just permitted Lee to do something, and it seems like it was necessary for Lee to win. I see. My guess was correct after all. Naruto mused, seeing Lee take off the weights from his location on the statue. He then lifted it, hovering it over the statue. There were many doubts about those weights. From a basic point of view, those weights looked to be about just around 10 or so pounds. But Naruto had a sneaking suspicion. There is no way that those weights only weigh 10 or so pounds. Gai-sensei wouldn't have empathized its value if that was the case. It seems like those weights will be crucial if Lee wants to win. Naruto deduced, denying the possibility of those weights weighing 10 pounds. As the weights fell and crashed on the floor, a huge explosion was created by the weights. This caused many to widen their eyes a considerable amount from this. Naruto was quite amazed at Lee's strength. There was no doubt about it. He's definitely in the top 7 when it comes to who is the strongest genin in the Chunin exams. Anyone who says otherwise is just completely and utterly wrong. Naruto looked at Satsuki for a moment. He's stronger than Satsuki, that's for sure. Naruto looked back towards Lee and Gaara. In just a split second, Lee disappeared in a blink of an eye. Naruto slightly widened his eyes before he made it return back to its normal, apathetic gaze. He's fast, even faster than me. This will certainly raise him up again. He's stronger than me. Naruto couldn't help but feel excited with this conclusion. The only way I can beat him is if I can reach speeds that exceed that of Lee's. There was no doubt about it. Lee has moved up to the top 3 strongest genin in the Chunin exams. Naruto saw Lee gain even more speed as he ran around Gaara. It was hard to say who was stronger between Gaara and Lee, though it was clear that Gaara was very weak to Lee's unfathomable speed. Those two. They're in the top spots for the strongest genin here. Naruto looked up towards the ceiling. It's all about matchup. If I get matched up with Gaara, I'll think I would win since I am much more versatile when it comes to fighting an opponent like him. But someone like Lee, I'll lose if I don't get proper training. Naruto thought, now knowing what he had to do from here on out. His eyes calculated each move that was made. Gaara was getting overwhelming amounts of damage done to him every split second. But there was one thing Naruto was wondering about. There must be a huge consequence for going at such insane speeds. Naruto thought, looking at the battle right in front of him. After another few moments, Naruto saw Lee take Gaara up to the air with him via a series of kicks. A few moments ago, he let those bandages dangle around. He then ran around Gaara at increasingly high speeds. Naruto thought. He then slightly raised an eyebrow as he saw a slight opening in the attack that Lee had just done a moment ago. His feet are strained. Gaara took advantage of that split-second advantage. Naruto's mind was overflowing with thoughts about the battle that has truly fascinated and piqued his interest to the limits. I see. Naruto thought. The bandages that Lee let dangle was being used at this current moment. He let the bandages roll all around Gaara, wrapping him tightly as they descended downwards in a quick speed. Lee and Gaara spun rapidly as their bodies hurled towards the floor. The two hit the floor and created a large explosion that was full of debris and rubble. Though it may seem Lee has secured his victory, Gaara was just barely one step ahead. Lee was just a few meters away from the crater that was formed. As the smoke cleared, Gaara's body was there laying on the floor, but it truly wasn't over just yet. There was no way someone like Gaara would be out just from that powerful move that Lee has just done. And Naruto knew exactly what Gaara had done in that exact moment. Substitution. Naruto thought, seeing the crumbling sand that had took Gaara's place. Lee widened his eyes, feeling the pain from his legs as he tried to stand up. Gaara then appeared just a few meters right behind him and slammed him towards the wall with his sand. There was absolutely no hesitation that could be seen from Gaara. He has the intent to kill. Naruto thought as he gazed at Gaara, who had such a crazed and devilish grin peering from his face. He truly has gone mad. Lee had just barely dodged the next attack that was made by Gaara. He gritted his teeth, feeling the pain that was rising from his body. This certainly was troubling him to a very large extent. Lee panted, dodging another barrage of attacks courtesy of Gaara. Pain whelmed all over Lee's body, though it seems he has no intention of yielding or giving up towards Gaara. Naruto observed the current state that Lee was in. His chances of winning were slim, but he can turn it around. I won't give up, thought Lee, feeling the fatigue reach from deep within. He has one more trick up his sleeve that will most certainly turn the table around in a matter of seconds. I want to fight them, Neji, Satsuki, and Naruto. He let himself grind his teeth together with such friction and determination coursing all throughout his own body. I want to prove myself that I am worthy of the title, the strongest. Lee screamed inside of his mind. Waves of power started to mix and dilute the air all around them. Many people widened their eyes at the display of sheer power that a genin was emitting. This battle was truly worthy of being the last fight of the preliminary rounds. I don't know what you're doing, but I'll end it here. Gaara was nearing his limit just right about now. This fight has already surpassed the scaling of power that was demonstrated all throughout the many rounds that have occurred. Naruto noticed Lee's skin turn red due to the amount of strain that his body was currently going through right now. A bluish aura enveloped Lee's entire body. Third gate. Lee disappeared, making many to widen their eyes even more than before. It was practically bulging out of their own sockets. Lee's speed ruptured the ground that everyone stood on, creating many tides of debris due to said speed. Everyone could feel the power of the gates oozing off. Guy, you taught. Kakashi was basically speechless. Guy nodded at Kakashi's unfinished sentence. He already knew what Kakashi was going to say. Lee appeared right in front of Gaara, kicking him in the face with such force. Gaara widened his eyes at the sudden hit. His body was flung to the air. Fourth gate, thought Lee, disappearing once again and reappearing right behind Gaara. He felt another massive spike of pain to his abdomen area. He was flung away once again. Sand that Gaara had aimed right towards Lee did not have any significance to him and merely brushed it off by dodging it. Lee appeared all around Gaara. Lee felt even more pain but just shrugged it off like it was absolutely nothing. This level of power that Lee was demonstrating, it was unbelievable and uncomprehending. Gaara was being treated like a damn ragdoll. Every second that passed, Gaara was flung from left to right. His sand was too slow to even act as a defense anymore. It was futile. All Gaara was feeling was pain, and only pain. Fifth gate, thought Lee, hovering just about 10 meters above Gaara. He was about to unleash his finishing move to take Gaara out of the competition. Lee appeared right in front of the falling Gaara and kicked him right towards the ground. Numerous thoughts filled everyone's head as they observed what the outcome of the battle was going to be. Another explosion occurred from the impact that Gaara had on the titled floor. Lee also fell on the ground just a few meters away from Gaara's location. Crash landing on the ground, Lee rolled and rolled on it for a few seconds before halting. Naruto now knew that this battle was anyone's game. Whoever had the better endurance would ultimately be the victor of the battle. As the smoke that once again surrounded Gaara disappeared, it could be seen that he was just barely intact and was looking right towards the direction of Lee's. His eyes landed on the figure of the weak-state Lee. Lee noticed this and tried crawling away due to his legs being too strained to be used. He cushioned his landing by using the gourd on his back, said Kankuro, noting the fact that the gourd that was usually on the back of Gaara's was now completely gone. It has become the sand that he uses for battle. He's quite versatile, Naruto thought, looking at the movements of Gaara. He outstretched his hand right towards Lee, whom was full of utter despair. A crazed laugh escaped from Gaara's mouth. "I win!" he yelled, directing this statement right towards the single person who almost defeated him just a few moments ago. Some of the sand around him started to move. The sand then slithered its way right towards Lee, quickened its pace a considerable amount. It then wrapped itself around Lee's left leg and arm and crushed it to living pieces. The sounds of Lee's bones cracking, breaking, fracturing, and shattering echoed all throughout the stadium. Die! The sand then started to slowly engulf Lee's figure. But he soon widened his eyes as someone interfered with this exchange and canceled the move out. "I can't have you continue with such unyouthful acts," said Guy, directing his serious gaze towards Gaara. The redhead soon gritted his teeth as he put his hand on his head. There was a slight pause. Why? Why save someone that is beyond broken? He questioned, giving a glare right towards Guy. There also another moment of silence that happened. "Because he's one of my 3 prize students whom I care for," responded Guy. Gaara just stayed silent, letting the sand engulf him and returning him back to a normal state. Though there was a few noticeable bruises, he limped and passed Guy and Lee as the medics were coming right to their aid. Gaara looked at Lee for a second, thinking on how he failed to kill and make him shed blood. As he turned back, he was met with a sight of black and blonde right in front of him. Naruto just stood there, apathetically looking at Gaara without worry, sympathy, or pity. His expressionless and dull eyes peered into the soul of Gaara's like a book. Many saw this and noticed the rising tension that loomed in the air all around them. Gaara. His tone was everything but warm and welcoming. There was no way he would give Gaara sympathy after almost killing a comrade of Konoha. "Move out of my way. If you don't, Mother will happily take you blood." But Naruto just stood there, unfazed by the threat that was made and directed towards him. Naruto pushed his hands into his pockets and slowly advanced right towards Gaara without any fear or hesitation. He then slowed down his pacing just a bit. "While I would congratulate you on your victory, You critically injured a comrade. I won't forgive for such a thing. Naruto's deep and bottomless eyes kept on gazing at Gaara. His eyes were truly a terrifying feature of his. I don't care. Move out of my way, ordered Gaara, using a much more forceful tone this time. Sand started to build up right behind Gaara just for safety measure. Before I go, I would like to say something. Naruto got closer towards the maniac redhead right in front of him. There is no doubt that we will be fighting each other for our first round, said Naruto, activating his 3 Tomo Sharingan that was kept hidden by his contact lenses. So, what? You're nothing but an obstacle. Naruto stopped right in front of Gaara. There was a noticeable difference in height, with Naruto being taller than Gaara. Sorry, but I'm going to be winning. It doesn't matter if sacrifices are need. It doesn't matter if I have to kill you in the end. As long as I take the victory in the end, nothing else matters. Naruto looked down at Gaara without any fear. This is a declaration of war that I have made between you and me, said Naruto. This caused many to widen their eyes at those words that came out of his mouth. Your power isn't enough to defeat me.
Hey, you! Yes, you! If you are here and want more seasons of this fanfic, just don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. So, bye bye!